Hello there, fellow simmers, and welcome back. Yeah, you got it right from the title. Today we are doing a 3x3 challenge. A fully functional, one-story, low-budget house, and all within just 9 tiles. As you can see, we can even fit in a car there. Awesome! So I got this idea from watching Cozy Pixel's 4x4 house, which turned out amazing by the way, as well as from playing around with that walkthrough mod that I showed you when I was building the bus for Serpent's Tail. So as you can see, I'm using the same bus set as before, and at this point, basically, the entire shell is done. The only thing that is left to place is some doors and windows. I had always believed that the smallest bathroom you can do is 1x3. You know, with the door in the center and the shower and the toilet being to the sides, but it turns out that is not the case. I had different thoughts on what to do in terms of style, whether to go a more grungy route, but eventually I ended up with a modern minimalistic style, at least when it comes to wallpapers and floors. But even having decided on this style, I still had a couple of colors to choose from. Whether to have a more colorful approach or just do something minimalistic. I even tried to match that white edge that I have. But in the end, I just decided to go with the plain black color. I think universal is always the best choice. I used a couple of metal textures to convey this idea that this is an actual movable trailer that you would carry around with you. And as you can see, I have placed a lot in Strangetown, because I think this whole idea of having a small little trailer would be suitable for a climate like that, because I don't think you can do much in terms of heating it. And as I said, this is gonna be a fully functional house, and by that I mean that our sim will be able to satisfy every need. They can also learn pretty much every skill, though there is a small twist to that, as well as they can communicate with the sims not leaving the house, or at least the lot. Technically, if I were to play this lot for real, I should be able to max out any career. So I'm now placing counters, as you can see, stepping away 1/4 from the wall, and that is the most important and maybe challenging part, to make a fully interactable kitchen in there. You can see I've placed the middle counter on the walkthrough mod. That is necessary because we're gonna have a desk right there in the corner, and without the mod, the sim would not be able to stand up. I've tested it out. And for some reason, they have a problem with approaching the desk from right. That is why I placed it on that side of the wall, because even though initially I wanted to have the whole kitchen set on just one side and the desk being to the other side, next to the bathroom. So you can see that as I was building, I was also testing out the functionality of the things, because I would not want to just have a surprise of a non-functional object because I misplaced something. But so far, so good. You can see we can access the fridge, we can access the sink, and the trash can too. With the counters in place, I then moved on to bathroom so that I could also play test it. So, and as you can see, everything works just fine, even though for some reason she's wearing a swimsuit in a shower. Weird. And that is where I decided to place a bookcase too, because that is also a very important part for the whole build. And of course I'm using the shelf bed by Logical too, because that is just the most suitable thing. Other bunk beds that I downloaded have just too much space to the sides, and this one is just perfect. I guess you can already tell that a build like this requires some finicky OMSP and walkthrough mod placement. But if you ever decide to try this challenge by yourself, don't be discouraged if anything is not working out as you want it to. There is probably another way you can place the object, even if it is not accessible at the moment. So having placed a mirror, I also wanted to add a separate bookcase, and this is the first of the 2 non-interactable objects. Objectively speaking, I didn't even need the first bookcase because I'll be using the Monique computer that already allows you to learn basically any skill, but I don't want to cheat like that, and so I decided to put as many separate objects to learn skills as possible. Though having placed that bookcase, I messed up the height of the bed a little bit. It clipped with the box at the top, so I had to move the shelf bed just one bit higher, and because of that I also had to swap the windows so that we have the open ones in the bathroom. After that I decided to place some shelves right next to the bed, and even though the textures do not match that well, I think it turned out pretty much okay. Ooh, now this is the part that I'm kind of proud of, because I think it turned out pretty amazing. So I don't think that a dresser or a wardrobe is a required part for any build, especially when I have some mods that add that functionality. But in this case, I wanted to add this cloth rack for the sake of realism. And since we have some space at the bottom of the bed, I wanted to place it right at the top. But then, of course, we would have these boxes hanging out in the air. And so, with some clever usage of OMSP, I managed to make it look as if the boxes are on the shelf. But unfortunately, then the shelf clipped with the books on the bookcase. And to fix that, I used the below ground OMSP version 3. After that, I added the laptop, that is Monique's computer, and I had to test out everything, of course, to see if it is functional or not. As you can see, everything works just fine. The bookcase is still accessible. The only thing is that the mirror is just 1/4 too far to the wall, but that can be easily fixed, and the rest is pretty much accessible too. Nice! Now, this is the part where I wasted some time trying that neat trick that I've seen in one of Any Bets video, where you can use the OMSP for food preparation in order to place a microwave there. For some reason, I just couldn't make it work, no matter what I tried, and I tried a lot. I assumed that the problem I had was that the shelf I put it on was way too much to the wall. Well, it would be cool to have a microwave oven. I think it's pretty realistic that you would want to have a device like that in a mobile thing. It's not that big of a deal because it does not add that much of functionality to the gameplay. So in the end, I was not that sad to scrap the entire idea. Even though I think it is a really neat idea. It's just I might want to use it somewhere else, in a bigger kitchen for sure. As you can see, I also tried to put it on the opposite wall, but still it would not work even though I put it on a different shelf piece. So eventually I just had to let it go. We had a much more important task to do, because remember, in the beginning I said that I had to step away 1/4 away from the wall to place the counter. And that obviously left this whole gap between the counter and the wall. My initial idea was to cover it with a single piece of shelf that would be 2 tiles long, but it just did not work out. Then I wanted to use this matching shelf piece that came with the same kitchen set, but the heights were not that great. Even though in the beginning I did not mind to have this little step, I even thought it looked pretty cool in terms of design. Like, one of the ideas I had was even to put it in contrast to the countertop texture. But having tried every single OMSP height there is, I just could not make it work. I know, it just looked ugly to me. I tried several different shelf pieces, but as you can see, with some there was this weird lighting issue. I guess it was not working that properly. And with the other, there was this very weird gap between the countertop and the shelf that you could fit, I don't know, your hand inside. So no matter what I tried, no matter the OMSP I used, it still did not look the right way to me. As you can see, I haven't tried the below ground OMSP, hoping that it might fix the lighting issue. Unfortunately, it was not the case. So the solution I came up with was to use a duplicate counter. It had a whole different issue. You can see that it clips with the sink a little bit. Just covers maybe, I don't know, 1/4 of it. And if I placed it farther away from the sink, it would go through the wall, which is even worse than clipping with the sink. So eventually, I just didn't mind having it like that. It even looked as if it was just a peculiar design of a sink itself. I don't know why you would want to have a step like that, but why not? So with that done, the only thing that was left to add was a lot of clutter to make the whole place look lived up. The first thing that I placed, you can see, was a foldable telescope that I downloaded specifically for this build, because I imagine the owner of this house would be like a freelance astronomer who roams around SimNation, just stargazing from different points in the country. And unfortunately, in the base game, you can increase your logic either with the chess set, which would require at least 2 tiles, something we cannot afford, or we need a telescope that occupies even more than that, 4 tiles. Luckily, the telescope in the game looks as if it's supposed to be foldable. You know, it's on the tripod, it seems to be like that, and the head can also be pretty much detachable. Unfortunately, there is like a whole deco set that is made specifically for that. As for the general decoration of the lot, I did not want to put that much stuff so that it looks cramped, but at the same time, I wanted it to look lived up and realistic. So first of all, I added a lot of kitchen-related clutter. Then I noticed this cool pile of toilet paper, and I thought that no one would want to run out of it somewhere in the middle of a desert, having nothing but cacti to wipe your ass. I imagine this would be the lesson our sim learned the hard way. Then I added some more bathroom stuff, and it may not look like this because I have edited out a lot of footage, but this part was the most time consuming. Not only because decorating in general requires attention as well as filling with OMSP, but also because half the time I was like, what? I had that in my downloads folder? So I was browsing through all the stuff that I have because I don't remember half of it, and my strategy was first to put all the stuff that I liked on the ground, and then later add them one by one using the OMSP. And it certainly feels great to try and build something without the constraints of the Build a City challenge we currently have in Serpentsdale. Well, it is fun to be driven by the storyline of the hood. Sometimes you just need to try out different style, maybe a theme, to kind of reset yourself and maybe look for inspiration, new ideas and building techniques. And I really think this little trailer would blend in pretty well in Strangetown, which is also the reason why I placed it in here. Even though, to be honest, I have not played that much with the pre-made hoods, even back when I was just learning to play the game. That's just a personal pet peeve of mine. I'm not sure if you can relate to that, but I cannot play The Sims created by someone else, including Max's, because I have this weird feeling as if I'm messing around with someone else's toys, and call me crazy, but I'm afraid to break something, or play it the wrong way. Even though, obviously, it's not possible and pre-mades are made for you to enjoy it, but nah, that's just not for me. Right now I'm just decorating this little office area we have in there, nothing much, just, a laptop, some written notes, and of course pens to write the stuff with. Oh, and this is an interesting part where I decided to place some utensils that would make sense if this was a real trailer. So I believe you would want to have a solar panel to generate some electricity for this little build, and that AC unit is something else you would want to have in a hot climate like that. I don't imagine she would be able to plug into the town system somehow, and the only thing I wish I had is some sort of a water tank perhaps to place on the roof as well. And I also considered placing a landline phone, but then taking into account the nature of this build, I thought otherwise. So I just decided to replace it with an alien poster because since our lot owner is something like a freelance astronomer, that might be like the focus of her studies that she's doing roaming around the sim nation. And as for the phone, I believe that if I were playing the lot, I would then just buy her a cell phone. We've also got a little bit more clutter that would belong to the bathroom, and it just occupies that top shelf corner there. Now I'm just doing some finishing touches here and there, deleting all the rest that we don't need anymore. Placing some more stuff around on the shelves so that it looks really good and lively, and just adding the card that got deleted somewhere there in the middle of the decorating process. And of course we need to do at least some landscaping, adding a little bit of terrain here and there. I decided to go with the gravel because I think that would suit very nicely as this kind of rural road that they would have in Strangetown. And a little bit of greenery so that we can place some cacti. I did not go that crazy with the outside part of the build. Just tiny little bits for it not to look that bland. And then of course we need to add some lighting too, taking into account that all the lighting as well as other utensils will have to be powered by the solar panel we have at the rooftop. There is no other electricity source. And as the finishing touch, I added the telescope that she must have unfolded. That is pretty much it for the building part of the video. We can now go into first-person view and see what it actually looks like as if we were a sim. I think if you're not being careful, you can bump your elbow against a shelf or something in there. But overall, I'm pretty satisfied with how it turned out. Maybe save for some mismatching textures, but that can be fixed if I just paid more attention to downloading more CC. Oh, and the telescope that we're looking at right now can then be unfolded just like that, so that our Spencer could stargaze, maybe find some new planets, or even watch out for UFO. And now, just to make sure that everything is working fine, let's go into live mode and try out everything that we have in here. So as you can see, she can safely use the toilet without any problem at all. If we try and use the shower, she should also be able to do that. Yes, perfect. Having done that, we can see that she has pretty low hunger, so why don't we ask her to make something like spaghetti? Yeah, yeah, you can see she's walking to the super fridge that I have in there, using the tabletop counter that she has right over the fridge, putting everything together. Yep, everything seems to be working just fine. Yep, put that in that pan, and now she can move to the stove. And yeah, you can notice that we don't have the sink for some reason. That turned out to be the problem with the decoration. But as you can see, yeah, she's just taking the plate. She can sit tight on that chair right beside her laptop, and once she's done, we can even ask her to wash the dishes. She of course clips back with the ladder that we have in there, but I imagine she would be able to move it when she actually needs it. The only problem you can see is that the doors get stuck, but I'm pretty sure there is a fix for that. I just haven't downloaded it yet. The only other problem that I had was with the trash can, because I placed it with the snap objects to greet false, and I just had to place it without it. And having done that, she can now use the trash can just as any other object in here. And after that, we can see that she can also use the laptop to maybe do some research, write a thesis or something, maybe analyze all the data that she got after stargazing the telescope. And once she's done with that, she can of course lie back and maybe read a science fiction novel. Why not? Yeah, let's take a look at a couple more close-up shots to be able to see even more. Oh yeah, I can now see a little bit of clipping going on here and there, but nothing major that cannot be fixed by moving the stuff around just a little bit. I sure hope our freelance astronomer Spencer Starr finds it really comfortable to be living in here. Thank you very much for staying with me, guys. I hope you enjoyed my little build. Stay tuned for more. Good luck and see ya!